Hello and welcome to today's episode of Math Quiz Kids. Today you will be learning about absolute value, integers, and the coordinate grid. First off, let's start with absolute value. Absolute value is any number inside of two lines as shown here. To find absolute value, you have to find the distance of that number and 0. This is best shown on the number line. So if 0 is in the center and 7 is over here, the distance between 7 and 0 is probably 7, which it is, as shown on the number line. Once you have found the distance from 0, that is your absolute value. One way I like to show this is absolute value is like being trapped inside of a box. Nothing can go in and nothing can go out and nothing can change with inside of the box. That is my interpretation of absolute value. And one way this can be used is with integers or negative numbers used in absolute value. Say we have the number negative 6 and we have to find the absolute value. Well, since there's a negative in there, we must take it out because nothing can come inside of the box within the number or go outside. So the absolute value of negative 6 will just be 6. You can also use a number line and find the distance between 6 and 0, which is 6. Now let's move on to integers. Integers are any whole numbers that have a negative sign or a positive sign. So that means every number except for 0 is an integer. Integers are best shown in the number line. 5 is on the right because on the right side of the number line everything is positive, and on the left side of the number line everything is negative, and in the middle it is usually always 0. Now let's begin talking about the coordinate grid. The coordinate grid is shown like this. It has 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. A coordinate grid is any two intersecting lines that make 4 quadrants as shown. Questions using the coordinate grid will usually be like one shown here. It will say in parentheses 3, 2. And the way you can figure this out is by using the coordinate grid wisely. A phrase I like to use is first you crawl, then you walk. That is how I solve problems including the coordinate grid. First off, we crawl, so we go along the x-axis, which is the horizontal intersecting line, and we reach 3. Once we reach 3, we walk up all the way to 2 and mark that point. That is the answer to our question using coordinate grid. Now, let's move on to questions using other quadrants of the coordinate grid. Let's say -3 and 2. So, how are we going to solve for a negative number on the coordinate grid? As we have shown on the number line, anything that is left is usually negative. But this way, on a coordinate grid, anything that goes down is negative also. So, the 4 quadrants go like this. The first number that you crawl with is positive. The second number that you walk with is positive also on the first quadrant in your coordinate grid. On the second quadrant, since you go left, your first number that you crawl with is negative. And since you go up on your second quadrant, the second number is positive. On the third quadrant, since you go left, it is a negative number. And since you go down also, that also resembles a negative number. And finally, for the fourth quadrant, when you crawl, you go to the right, which equals a positive number. But then you have to go down, which equals a negative number. And those are the values inside of a coordinate grid. So, where are we going to find -3 and 2? Since the first number is negative and the second number is positive, it will be in the second quadrant. First you crawl to -3 and then you walk up to 2 and then you mark your point, and that is your answer to the coordinate grid. Today's sponsor was brought to you by DJ Homes, your perfect DJ for private parties, weddings, bachelor parties, and much more. And that is it for today's episode of Math Quiz Kids.